Welcome back, Pre-Algebra. We're in lesson 113, and we're going to talk about how to use a ruler and the inch scale. We use a ruler or an inch ruler to measure lengths. The longest marks with the whole numbers or the integers beside them indicate whole inches. On the inch ruler shown here, there are 16 marks between each inch. So let's talk about what those marks are. We know that the longest marks here, that indicates a whole inch. Let me erase this. I'm going to put that here. These are the longest marks, and these are the ones that indicate the inches, the ones with the numbers next to them. So that's an inch. Now each inch is divided by another line that is not quite as long as the whole inch, and it is the next longest line, and it indicates it cuts the inch in half. This is the half an inch mark. Each next longest line divides that section in half of it. So we have an inch, we have a half inch, then this line, which is the next longest line, divides the half inch in half. And with fractions, how do we divide something in half? We multiply it by 1/2. So that measurement would be 1/4. So this next longest line right here is 1/4. Okay, it's 1/4 of an inch. Now we have another line that is a little less, it's a little bit shorter than this one. And it's dividing this 1/4 in half, and we divide 1/4 in half with a fraction by multiplying it times 1/2. And that measurement, that line, is going to indicate 1/8. So the next line here is 1/8 of an inch. And finally, we get down to the smallest or the shortest line that is dividing the 1/8 of an inch measurement in half. And that little line right there is going to be 1/8 times 1/2, which is 1/16. So we have an inch divided into 16 equal parts. And that's how we measure using a ruler. We look at the lines and see the biggest or the longest line that it is the closest to, whatever it is. And that is where we look for the closest measurement. And we use that fractional notation to tell how big or how long the item is. And we use length, the measurement of length with a ruler. So let's look at problem number 113.1. All right, in problem 113.1, we're looking at this red line here. We need to know how long the red line, or how far away from the beginning of the ruler is this red line. What is the length indicated on the ruler by this mark? So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so we can see this a little bit better. And if you look, we see that this line is just past 4 inches. So we're going to have 4 inches for sure. And then we're going to look, I like to look at the half because I know that's the next longest line. And then I go backwards to the next longest line, so that's 1/4. Then the next longest line is 1/8, and then this is in between 4 and the 1/8 measurement, so it's got to be a 1/16. So that mark is on 4 and 1/16, and that's how we would find the answer to 113.1, which is where that line indicates the length from here to the end. So let's look at another problem. All right, so in 113.2, we have a series of lines here, and we are going to measure them. So let's zoom in just a little bit so we can see a little bit better how this is going to work. All right, so I'm going to scroll down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this ruler, let me grab it, and I'm going to line up the end of my ruler. Hold on, there's a little bit of a background. Let me get rid of that background for us. All right, that's better. I got rid of the background for us in here. So I'm going to line up the end of this ruler with the end of the line. And I am going to get my pen, and that looks pretty close here. So I'm going to again look for the ending point. So it's past the 2.5 mark, and it's not quite to the quarter mark, but it's also past the 1/8 mark. And if I count the number of these, I'm going to see it's 1, 2, 3 eighths. So to get the number of eighths here, it's 3 eighths, but it's actually on this little 16th mark. So I need to count the number of 16ths that I have from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is 2 and 11 sixteenths because it's not quite on this next 8 mark. So this is 2 and 11 sixteenths is what we have here. So let's go ahead and measure this next line. I'm going to draw or drop my ruler down to here. And I'm going to line it up with the end. And let me get my pen and let's scroll this around so we can see this a little bit better. So we know it's past 5 inches because here's our length or our biggest inch here that it's past. So it's 5 and something. So here's my half, here's my quarter, here's my 1/8. So it is 5 and 1/8. And that is how long that is. And when we write inches, we shorten it by saying IN period. Because if we write IN is a word by itself, in. If we don't put the period, we don't know it's inches. It's just 5 and 1/8 in. In what? But if we put the period, we know it's 5 and 1/8 inches. There's another mark that we can use that we use a lot of, and it's used mostly in construction or even in sewing. Sewing is a type of construction also, and it is the quotation mark is used to represent inches. And that has come about just because people would scrawl inches together, and it got to where they would scrawl it so quickly it would look like 2 little marks thrown together, and so it became the norm. And now people use 1 mark for foot and 2 little marks for inches. Okay? Just a little bit of fun facts and info. So let's see how long this line is. If I put this at the end here, and I'm going to scroll up a bit. Let me go back to my pen. Let me scroll this up. Let's see. I have exactly 4 inches. This comes right to the end of the 4-inch line here. So that's a 4-inch line. That's pretty cool. All right, so now let's look at this one. I'm going to take my ruler and move it down again. Move it right to the end of this line. Oh, this is a long one. Let's scroll over here and get my pen. And let's see where this one goes. I'm going to get the smaller pen here. This looks like it is right here on this line. And that is 9 inches. And then here's the half. Here's the 1/4. So it looks like 9 and 1/4 inches. And that's how you use a ruler to measure things. You go to the highest inch and then you work your way into the marks to figure out what they are. The littlest marks are the 16ths. And here's something interesting. Let's say you counted the 16ths. 1, 2, 3, 4 16ths. You can reduce this fraction to 1/4. If you divide this by 4 and divide this by 4. So one of the things that you can do is just count the 16th marks, and then if you can reduce the fraction, it will tell you the same thing without having to actually know what the marks are. but it can also just help you learn the marks as well. So count the sixteenths and reduce the fraction if you can. If you can't reduce the fraction, then it's a 16th measurement. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the metric system now. Let me clear this off for us. So this is a different ruler. It's a ruler that has the centimeters and the millimeters marked out on it. It's a 6-inch ruler, and it shows you the comparison between inches and the centimeters. Now, if you pay close attention and you look, we've said before that a inch is 2.54 centimeters. So this is an inch from here to here, and they start at the same point. And you can see we have 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, and a little over half of the second centimeter. So 2.54 centimeters is the same as 1 inch, and we see that illustrated here. So let me zoom in so you can see this a little bit better. If I get this to zoom, there we go. All right, so you can see there are little marks in between the centimeter. So you have the centimeter, and it's similar to the way that a ruler is set up. You have the half centimeter marked with the next longest line, but then all of the other marks in between are short. What this indicates, this is the half centimeter, but there are 4 marks in between, and that shows us that a centimeter is marked off in 10 spaces, not 16 like an inch. That is because the metric system uses the base 10 method for measurement. This 1 centimeter has 10 millimeters within it. So 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeters. Okay? So the small little spaces in between here are 1 millimeter wide. So let's do a little exercise here. I'm going to use a red line. We're going to do problem 113.3, and I'm going to point to a space. I'm going to draw a line. We're going to find out where that is and how to say it. So let's put a little line right here. That's not the line I wanted. I wanted a straight line. Let's use this one. I don't know what my little thing is doing right here. It's just not wanting to go straight up and down. Let's just go straight up and down right here. All right, that's where I wanted to mark it. So if you look, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 4 centimeters and 7 millimeters. So the way that is written in the metric system is 4.7 centimeters. But you could also write that as 47 millimeters. You can see how much easier it is to actually write down a measurement in the metric system. There are no conversions in regards to fractions like 16th of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. It's just dependent upon the number of marks that you count. And it's dependent upon whether you're using this unit of measure or this unit of measure, but the numbers remain the same. Just the decimal place shifts. And that's kind of cool if you think about it. So one of the other things that we know about the metric system, being a base 10, is the next unit of measure up is going to be the meter. And there are, in 1 meter, there are 100 centimeters. So for every 100 centimeters, you have 1 meter. So you would be able to convert 4.7 centimeters by dividing this by 100, and you would get the number of meters. When we divide by 100, we simply shift the decimal place over 2. So this would also equal 0.047 meters. So as you can see, The number never changes. We just shift the decimal place for the different lengths of, or the different units of measure. It's kind of it's a very standard and easy way to do it. And in every country except the United States, they use the metric system for their length. So let's look at 113.4. Let me erase all of this for us. So I'm going to draw some lengths and then we're going to measure them. So let me draw them up here for us. All right, so here's the first one. Let's get in here and let's line up our metric ruler. We're going to put the 0 in line with the end. And we're going to zoom in just a little bit so we can see where we are and what we're doing. And let me get this thin line again. And I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to use a different color. Put it right here at the end. So we have almost 6 centimeters. So that means if we don't have 6 centimeters, then we have 5.9 centimeters or 59 millimeters. Isn't that neat how we don't have to do any math to convert it to something smaller, and we don't have to do any math to convert it to something bigger either. We just move the decimal point. So this would be 0.059 of a meter. All right, so let's measure the next line. See how that does. Here's this line. We're going to line up with the end. And again, we're going to bring it up so we can see what we're doing. And I'm going to switch to this green line. And I'm going to make a mark right here at the end of the line. And it lines up with halfway between the 4 and the 5 centimeters. So that's going to be 45 millimeters or 4.5 centimeters or 0.045 of a meter. Very cool. We've got one more to measure. Let's line it up with the very end here with the 0. I'm lining it up with the 0 on this end right here. I'm trying to get it as lined up as I can. So now let's look at the other end, and that will tell us what the length is. So I have a line right here, and my closest line is right here. So it's 1, 2, 3. So that is 11 centimeters, 11.3 centimeters, or 113 millimeters, or 0.113 of a meter. All right. So as you can see, measuring with the metric system or the English standard inches and feet is not difficult. You just have to learn how to use the ruler and place it on the very end where the 0 is, whether you're using centimeters or inches, it doesn't matter. But you line up the end, the 0, and then wherever it stops, that is the length that it is. And I do find that using the metric system is much easier to convert than using the English system. But whichever one that you use, just practice using your ruler so you know how to measure things. And if you want to run around the house measuring things just to see if you can do it, go for it. Measure everything you can measure to get that practice in, because you never know when you'll be called on to measure something, and we will be measuring things in class. All right, that's all I have for lesson 113, and I will see you in lesson 114.